Hey, what is going on, Menham family? I hope you guys are having an awesome start to your day. Well, today, what was I gonna do for you? Well, you guys have already read today's video. I'm gonna be sharing with you guys the top 5 different species of lizards I have always wanted to have as a reptile guy. Now, obviously, you guys know that I normally have snakes, but I do love all reptiles, you guys, including lizards as well. And I've always thought about, you know, if I do get a bigger place to myself, I always could add different certain reptiles, probably like whether it's like a giant day gecko or a blue-tongued skink or even a bearded dragon. I could always add some lizards into my collection too. So for today's video, I'm going to be sharing you guys the top 5 lizards I've always wanted to have. And stick around, you guys. Feel free to do that. So make sure you guys also, by the way, if you guys want to do this too, feel free to like and subscribe for me if you guys can do that. So let's go ahead and just get into this topic for y'all. Number 1, giant day geckos. So for many years now, giant day geckos have been really popular in the pet trade. And of course, there have been so many different morphs of giant day geckos for the last like 20 plus years that's been produced in captivity. Now, obviously, when it comes to this specific type of gecko, it is going to require high humidity as well. And where I'm at right now, in my bedroom in particular, the humidity right now is not that great. It's probably maybe around the 40% range at most right now, because since it is still winter time here in Michigan, but when the summer season does roll around, it does start to go up a little bit, maybe towards like 70-75%. So with that being said, it's a really awesome gecko that I really want to get, you know, because obviously it kind of reminds me of that Gecko from the Gecko commercial quite often, and there's just something about that emerald green on them that makes it so bright and unique looking. And obviously these guys do need a vertical cage for them, because these guys are dwellers, do stay off the ground quite often. And of course, even if I did want to get one, how often would I have to handle it, right? And the truth is that from what I've done my research on, is they're not quite handleable as compared to some other species of lizards, like bearded dragons or blue-tongued skinks. And these guys are more of a display animal. So regardless though, a giant day gecko, I still would love to get one. But of course, due to how small my bedroom is, it's just not going to happen anytime soon. Also, I forgot to mention though, they actually don't get that big either, so that's actually one of the reasons why I would like to get a giant day gecko too. Number 2, blue-tongued skinks. Blue-tongued skinks have been a part of the pet trade now for quite a while, and to be completely honest with you, I'm not gonna lie, they probably are one of the silliest looking lizards I've ever met. Now, I obviously do not own one, but I do know a couple people personally that do have a blue-tongued skink, and from what I've learned is that blue-tongued skinks are actually a pretty easygoing lizard to go with, because it's not because of how small they stay, but it's actually because of how docile they are. These guys are very, very docile reptiles. They're kind of social too, to be honest with you, if you actually do practice handling them frequently, and they are not really that aggressive whatsoever. As babies, they're going to be a little bit more bitey, since they might become more vulnerable, since they're more vulnerable. But regardless though, these guys are really neat looking animals, and the one thing that's nice about them too is you actually can offer them, believe it or not, dog food or cat food too as well, which I did not realize that. The only thing is though about blue-tongued skinks is that they do require more UVB lighting, and they do need a decent sized enclosure. At least, I'm going to have to go with at least a 40-gallon tank, because these guys can get about close to about 2 feet in length, I'm pretty sure. So that being said, they are still neat looking animals, and these guys, by the way, originate throughout most of the eastern portion of Australia too, so that's a really neat species. And at the same time, these guys, they're pretty lazy too. That's the one thing I like about them too. They don't move around that much either, so a very easy animal to handle. And it's just, the reason they call them also blue-tongued skinks is because obviously they have a blue tongue too. So I think it's just a cute thing though. That's why I think they're so silly looking. And I mean, who wouldn't think a lizard with a blue tongue would be kind of goofy, right? Number 3, emerald tree skinks. So emerald tree skinks originate from parts of Southeast Asia, particularly into parts of Indonesia as well. And these guys, they stay pretty small, roughly about 8 to 10 inches in length. And they kind of are actually similar to the other slightly similar species to green-keeled lizards, but they slightly are a bit more longer though than these little emerald tree skinks. Now these little guys, they're relatively common in the pet trade, it turns out, and they're very inexpensive, by the way. I think they range like $40–50 a piece, if I'm correct. Now, just like giant dead geckos, emerald tree skinks do require high humidity and a very warm temperature as well, since, like I said, these guys originate to Southeast Asia, so it's going to be very warm and very humid. So obviously the enclosure is going to have to be misted every single day. Now, that being said, I'm going to have to the type of enclosure I'm going to have to put one in if I wanted to get one would be inside a vertical enclosure as well, because emerald tree skinks, well, they got their name because they're usually found in the trees, so these guys are not usually on the ground that too often. So with that being said, though, and these guys, believe it or not, I do recall these guys are also insectivores too, and like I said too about the size, they don't get quite as large. They probably get about, like I said, 10–12 inches, so not a very big lizard to keep. But that being said, unlike giant day geckos and blue-tongue skinks, you can cohab. Well, I guess you can't officially cohab them, but if you do plan on breeding them, you can actually put more than one emerald tree skink in a vertical enclosure. But if you do plan on putting more than one in there, you would have to have a much bigger enclosure for them to fit in, because one enclosure for 2 or 3 of them, that's like, take for example, maybe like this size here where my girl Ellie's in here, it's not going to be able to fit like 2 of them in there. It's probably at least it's going to fit 1 in there. So with that being said too, I think it's just a neat lizard, to be honest with you. And like I said, I find them fascinating because that emerald green on them is so unique looking too. And I just feel like it would be a display animal too. Maybe not too much handling, but maybe a little bit. Regardless though, I think it's a unique animal, you guys. And the best part is, it's not even that expensive either. And seems a pretty easy care animal as long as you have done your research. So maybe one of these days, I'll probably get an emerald tree skink. So right now, number 4 is slightly a bit larger lizard that does require high maintenance care, and it does require a very large enclosure. But coming in at number 4 is Rhino Iguanas. And I just can't get enough of Rhino Iguanas, you guys, because from the moment I saw my very first Rhino Iguana a few years ago when I visited the Reptarium and I got to see Brian's iguana Bella, it just made me light up, you guys, just to realize how amazing these Rhino Iguanas are, and just how to see the personalities and how docile they can be compared to their other cousins. And it's just something amazing about them, you know. And one thing that I do love about Rhino Iguanas is their personalities. Like, they have so many different kinds of personalities. It's just so funny. Like, some of them are really lazy, some of them are very like social and want attention, or, well, in some cases some of them are not as social. But regardless though, they're just a unique animal, even though they do require still some caution, but nonetheless absolutely unique animal. And hopefully soon I might get one, but if I do, well, maybe I'll have to buy a big house for myself at some point. But regardless though, Rhino Iguanas, I don't see anything wrong with getting one. So I just noticed this not too long ago. My girl Ariel is still in shed here, everybody. She's actually just coming out of blue right now. I'll give you guys a good look at that. She literally, her eyes are just starting blue. I'm not sure if she's going in blue or she's coming out of it, but I'm suspecting she is starting to go in blue. So that is really cool here. So probably by the time I get back from my trip, I think she's gonna be completely done shedding. So I am gonna be having a bit of a mess to clean up, but nonetheless. Oh wait, what's today? Today is the 14th. Okay, so I do gotta feed a couple of my animals nonetheless. So, with that being said, I can't wait, everybody. This is gonna be absolutely cool. I don't know what to do, but all I can do is just wait for her to come out of shed, you guys. I'm wondering if I should do a time-lapse next time. I want to get a time-lapse of her shedding her skin next time I get to see it, you guys. Because the only downside is, though, is that when she does shed her skin, she kind of likes to do it late when it's nighttime, you know, a lot more quiet. And rarely do I ever see her do it during the middle of the day. So, but nonetheless, hopefully I'll catch her doing it one day. But nonetheless, I'm just gonna leave her be, everybody. And coming in at number 5, everyone, veiled chameleons. Now everybody that knows a lot about chameleons obviously knows that veiled chameleons are probably one of the most common species in the pet trade, obviously because of how cheap they are, and a lot of them have been imported throughout their native range, I guess, in the Yemen Peninsula area, and unfortunately there are some established colonies in parts of Hawaii and Florida, which is not good. But that being said too though, they really aren't that much of a big species either. They only get like 2 feet long, and to be totally honest with you, unlike some other lizards like rhino iguanas and blue-tongued skinks, veiled chameleons in particular, they kind of are not quite that social, believe it or not. They kind of actually more like to be left alone. So they kind of more like of a display animal. But that being said too, I guess if you could actually try to establish your veiled chameleon to be more social with some very gentle handling. Obviously, I actually do know a couple friends of mine that did own a veiled chameleon before, and unfortunately though, the downside is that veiled chameleons can have had a history of some health issues in captivity, obviously because whether it's due to humidity and temperature, but also as well as like their diet too, and like the proper substrate, because obviously it's very, very important. If you do get a tropical animal, you do need to have a very good suitable environment that's kind of realistic to their native habitat. So with that being said though too, veiled chameleons are also inexpensive. Some prices range $50 to about like $100 a piece. So with that being said, I mean, I guess it's a pretty inexpensive chameleon. But regardless, I guess those are all my top 5 lizards I've actually wanted to have. But do I think I'm going to get any of them within the next year? I don't think so. But can I see it in the next 10 years? There's a possibility. But hopefully I don't jinx myself on that. But regardless though, hopefully actually you guys now know the top 5 lizards I want. Let me know in the comments below and tell me on what the exact species of lizard have you guys always wanted to have. With this all being said too, everyone, for the next 3 to 5 more days, it's going to be pretty busy for me, because obviously sometime later off camera, I'm going to have my shelf unit that's going to come in, and we're going to hopefully eventually put it together soon. But I also, like I did mention earlier in the video, well, maybe not in this video or the previous one before that, I am going on a road trip out of state too for the weekend. So I am going to have my books, I have a pretty full book here, so I probably won't be able to get to building my shelf unit, probably not until I get back from my trip. So it's going to be stressful though for the next week. But regardless, hopefully you guys are ready to be on this journey with me, and it's going to be pretty epic. So regardless, make sure you guys actually like and subscribe, and feel free to turn on that notification bell too, everyone, and leave a comment down below and tell me what specific species again of lizard you guys have always wanted to have for your whole life. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and shut her down, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.
You got the sauce.